Admiral Kethvar stood before the massive viewing screen in the command center of the Eternal Dominion. His 6 legs clicked against the metal floor as he moved, his insect-like eyes scanning the data displays that surrounded him. The ship was enormous, larger than most cities on Earth, and it served as the flagship of the Galactic Council of Sci-Fi. The command center buzzed with activity as dozens of different alien species worked at their stations. There were the tall, blue-skinned Valthera, with their long fingers dancing across holographic controls. The rock-like Grenoids rumbled as they spoke in their deep, slow voices. Small, quick creatures called Zephyrite darted between the larger beings carrying messages and reports. Today was different from any other day in the past 3,000 years. Today the Council would make a decision that would change everything. "Bring up the Earth files," Kethvar ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets for over 2 centuries. The main screen filled with images of a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Earth looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. It was hard to believe that this tiny world had once been considered dangerous enough to require a truce. Council member Thaisara, a tall being with purple skin and 4 arms, approached the Admiral. "The Council has reviewed all available intelligence on the humans, Admiral. Our decision is final." Kethvar nodded slowly. 3,000 years ago, when the Galactic Council first discovered Earth, the humans had just learned to split atoms. They had crude nuclear weapons that could barely destroy a single city. By galactic standards, they were like children playing with fire. But the Council had been careful. They had seen what desperate species could do when cornered, and Earth's humans seemed particularly unpredictable. So the Council had offered a truce. They would leave Earth alone for 3,000 years, giving the humans time to develop and join galactic civilization peacefully. It had seemed generous at the time. Most species took at least that long to develop faster than light travel. "Show me the latest intelligence reports," Kethvar said. The screen changed to show surveillance data collected by long-range sensors. The images showed Earth much as it had been centuries ago. There were cities, but they seemed to use the same basic technology. The humans still appeared to be confined to their single planet. Their space program was limited to short trips to their moon and a few nearby planets. "They have made little progress," reported Intelligence Officer Vexton, a creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing green eyes. "Our sensors detect no advanced energy signatures, no faster-than-light engines, no planetary defense systems. They appear to still be using primitive fossil fuels and basic nuclear power." Other Council members gathered around the display. There was General Morthak, whose species had conquered 17 star systems before joining the Council. Commander Zilneth represented the traders, always looking for new markets and resources. Scholar Quindal spoke for the scientific community, interested in studying primitive cultures. "Earth possesses valuable resources," Commander Zilneth said, her metallic voice ringing through the chamber. "Rare metals, abundant water, and a stable ecosystem. With the humans still primitive, now is the ideal time to claim it." General Morthak's warrior instincts agreed. 3,000 years was generous. More than generous. If they have not advanced sufficiently to join galactic society, then they forfeit their claim to the planet. Scholar Quindal, however, seemed less certain. "There are gaps in our surveillance data. Some of our deep space sensors have been experiencing interference when they scan the Sol system. It could be natural phenomena, but what?" Kethvar asked. "Nothing concrete," Quindal admitted. "Just the humans were remarkably quick to develop nuclear technology when we first found them. Some species take millions of years to reach that point. They did it in just a few thousand." Admiral Kethvar considered this. The humans had been unusual, he remembered. Most species developed in predictable patterns. They would master fire, then agriculture, then metallurgy, following a path that the Council could easily track and predict. But humans had seemed to skip steps, combining different technologies in unexpected ways. Still, 3,000 years of surveillance showed no signs of advanced development. If the humans had been hiding their progress, surely there would be some evidence by now. "The decision stands," announced Thaisara. "The Galactic Council of Zeph hereby declares the 3,000-year truce with Earth to be concluded. The species known as humans will be given one final chance to surrender their planet peacefully and accept relocation to designated colony worlds. If they refuse, we will take Earth by force." The command center erupted in activity, as orders were transmitted throughout the massive fleet. Over 2,000 ships of various sizes began preparing for the journey to the Sol system. It would take several weeks to reach Earth, even with their fastest engines. Kethvar watched as the message was transmitted to Earth on all frequencies. The communication was translated into every human language they knew about. The message was clear and direct: surrender peacefully or face the consequences. Then they waited for Earth's response. What came back was not what anyone expected. Instead of panicked transmissions or desperate pleas for mercy, the communications officer looked confused as he reported, "Admiral, we're receiving multiple responses from Earth." But what? They appear to be laughing, sir." The command center fell silent. Laughter was not the response any of them had anticipated. Fear, anger, defiance, even attempts at negotiation would have made sense. But laughter? "Play the transmissions," Kethvar ordered. The speakers filled with sounds that were unmistakably human laughter. Not the bitter laughter of despair or the nervous laughter of fear, but genuine amusement. Mixed with the laughter were human voices speaking in their various languages. "About time," said one voice in English. "We were wondering when you guys would show up." 3,000 years is a really long time to wait for visitors," came another voice. This one speaking in what their computers identified as Mandarin. "Hope you brought snacks for the trip," joked a third voice in Spanish. Admiral Kethvar's antennae twitched in confusion. This was not how conquered species were supposed to respond. In his long career, he had overseen the peaceful absorption of dozens of worlds. Species either surrendered immediately when faced with the Council's superior technology, or they fought desperately before inevitable defeat. They never laughed. "Sir," the communications officer said, "more transmissions are coming in. Thousands of them. They all seem to be welcoming messages." Kethvar felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. But the fleet was already in motion, and the Council's decision was final. Whatever game the humans were playing, they would understand the reality of their situation soon enough. The Galactic Council's war fleet began its journey toward Earth, but for the first time in Admiral Kethvar's long career, he wondered if they truly understood what they were flying into. The journey to Earth would take 18 standard galactic days, and Admiral Kethvar had ordered continuous monitoring of all transmissions from the human world. What his intelligence teams discovered during those days challenged everything. The Galactic Council thought they knew about human behavior. Intelligence Officer. Vexton approached the Admiral with another report, his tree-like form rustling with what seemed like confusion. "Sir, the human response continues to be unusual." "Show me," Kethvar said, settling into his command chair with his 6 legs folded beneath him. The main screen filled with intercepted human broadcasts. Instead of the panic and chaos that should follow a declaration of war, the images showed something completely different. Humans were gathering in their streets, but not to protest or demand action from their leaders. They were celebrating. These appear to be what humans call parties, Vexton explained, highlighting various scenes. They are occurring in major population centers across the planet. Kethvar watched in growing bewilderment as humans danced, sang, and held up signs that read things like, "Welcome, space friends." And finally, "We've been waiting forever." Some humans had even dressed in crude costumes that seemed meant to represent different alien species, though their accuracy was questionable. "What about their military forces?" Kethvar asked. "Surely their warriors are preparing for battle." The screen switched to show intercepted military communications. But instead of battle plans and weapon deployments, the aliens heard human soldiers making jokes and taking bets. 20 credits says they have tentacles, one human soldier was saying over a radio channel. "Nah, I bet they're like big insects," replied another. "Did you see those old movies? They're always bug-like. I just hope they're not slimy," a third voice chimed in. "I hate slimy things." General Morthak, who had joined Kethvar to review the intelligence, growled in frustration. "Where are their battle preparations? Their weapon factories working overtime? Their evacuation plans?" "There don't appear to be any, General," Vexton reported. Instead, human manufacturing facilities seem to be producing what they call welcome gifts. Large quantities of items labeled as coffee, chocolate, and music collections. The screen showed massive warehouses being filled with small packages, all labeled with friendly messages in dozens of languages. Some packages had pictures of Earth and its various cultures. Others contained what appeared to be samples of human food and entertainment. Commander Zilneth, who understood trade and commerce, found this particularly confusing. Are they attempting to buy us off with primitive goods? Do they not understand the vast difference in our technological capabilities? It gets stranger, Vexton continued. We've intercepted communications from human scientists and engineers. They appear to be excited about our arrival. The screen showed recordings from what appeared to be human scientific institutions. Researchers were giving interviews to news organizations, but instead of expressing fear or outrage, they seemed thrilled. This is the greatest moment in human history, one elderly human scientist was saying to a camera. First contact with an advanced galactic civilization. Think of what we could learn from them. Another scientist, this one younger and even more enthusiastic, added, I've been studying theoretical faster-than-light propulsion for decades. Meeting beings who have actually mastered it will revolutionize our understanding of physics. We've been alone in the universe for so long, said a third. Finally, we'll have neighbors. Think of the cultural exchange possibilities. Scholar Quindal, who had been quietly analyzing all the data, spoke up. Admiral, there's something else. The humans keep mentioning that they've been waiting for us. They refer to the 3,000-year truce as if it were an appointment, not a period of mercy. Kethavar's antennae twitched with growing unease. What do you mean? Listen to this, Quindal said, playing another intercepted broadcast. A human news anchor was speaking to her audience. For those just joining us, the aliens have finally arrived to end the 3,000-year waiting period they announced to our ancestors. As promised, they're here to establish formal contact with Earth. Scientists worldwide are calling this the greatest day in human history. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were talking as if the truce had been a scheduled appointment, not a final chance to develop before conquest. Sir, the communications officer suddenly called out, we're receiving a direct transmission from Earth. It's addressed to you personally. Admiral, put it through, Kethavar ordered, though his confidence was beginning to waver. The screen filled with the image of a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform, though it looked far more advanced than the primitive clothing they had observed in earlier surveillance. She was smiling warmly, as if greeting an old friend. Greetings, Admiral Kethavar of the Galactic Council, the human said. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. On behalf of all humanity, I want to thank you for honoring the 3,000-year agreement our ancestors made. We're incredibly excited to finally meet you in person. The human paused, glancing at something off-screen before continuing. I understand you've come to discuss Earth's integration into galactic civilization. We've been preparing for this day for a very long time, and we have so much to share with you and learn from you. She smiled even wider. Oh, and I should mention, we've prepared guest quarters for your fleet when you arrive. We thought you might be tired after such a long journey. We've also arranged cultural exchange programs, technology sharing sessions, and what we call diplomatic dinners. You're going to love human food. The transmission ended, leaving the entire command center staring at the blank screen in stunned silence. Guest quarters? General Morthak finally managed to say. Technology sharing? They're treating this like a diplomatic visit, not a conquest. Sir, Vexton said quietly, there's one more thing. We've detected increased activity around Earth's moon and the planet they call Mars. Long-range sensors show structures that weren't there in our previous surveys. What kind of structures? We're not entirely sure, sir. The interference is getting stronger the closer we get to their system. But whatever they are, they're large and they appear to be new. Admiral Kethavar stood up, his 6 legs carrying him to the viewing screen. 18 days ago, this had seemed like a simple operation. A primitive species would be given a final chance to surrender, and when they inevitably refused, the Council would take their planet by force. It was a pattern they had followed dozens of times before, but humans were not following the pattern. They were acting as if the Council's arrival was not a threat but a long-awaited reunion. They spoke of sharing technology and culture, not surrendering their world. Most disturbing of all, they seemed genuinely happy about the situation. Maintain course, Kethavar ordered, though doubt crept into his voice, and double our scanning efforts. I want to know everything about what we're flying into. As the Eternal Dominion and its massive fleet continued toward Earth, Admiral Kethvar couldn't shake the feeling that they were not heading toward a conquest, but toward something else entirely. Something for which the Galactic Council had no preparation or precedent. The humans were waiting for them, and they were laughing. In his centuries of military experience, Kethvar had learned that when your enemies were happy to see you coming, it usually meant you were walking into a trap. But what kind of trap could a primitive species possibly set for the most powerful fleet in the galaxy? The Galactic Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find a primitive world defended by crude rockets and basic satellites. Instead, Admiral Kethvar found himself staring at something that should have been impossible. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out, his voice tight with disbelief, "you need to see this." The main viewing screen filled with an image that made every being in the command center freeze in shock. Hundreds of ships were approaching their position. Not the crude, chemical-powered vessels their intelligence had suggested humans possessed, but sleek, advanced craft that moved with impossible grace through space. "Are those human ships?" General Morthak asked, his warrior instincts immediately recognizing the technology that shouldn't exist. "Yes, sir," the sensor operator confirmed. "And Admiral, they're not attacking. They're in formation, like an honor guard." Kethvar watched in growing amazement as the human vessels arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns around the alien fleet. Each ship bore markings that seemed to welcome rather than threaten. Some had messages painted on their hulls in various languages. "Welcome to Sol, and thanks for visiting. And hope you brought your cameras. How are they moving so fast?" Scholar Quindal whispered, studying the sensor readings. "Those ships are traveling at speeds that should require exotic matter drives. But I'm detecting no exotic matter signatures." Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated, and a cheerful human voice filled the command center. "Greetings, friends from the stars. This is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Friendship. On behalf of the Sol System Welcome Committee, we'd like to officially welcome you to our neighborhood. We hope your journey wasn't too tiring." Admiral Kethvar looked around his command center, noting the confusion on every face, or face equivalent, of his crew. This was not how invasions were supposed to begin. "We've prepared a little tour of our system for you," Captain Rodriguez continued. "But first, we'd love to have you meet our fleet commander. Admiral Chen is very excited to finally meet you in person." The screen switched to show another human vessel approaching, this one larger and more sophisticated than anything in the Council's intelligence files. It was beautiful in a way that alien ships rarely achieved, with flowing lines that seemed both artistic and functional. "My God," breathed the sensor operator. "That ship is reading as more advanced than our own flagship." A new voice came over the communication system, this one belonging to the human female they had seen in the earlier transmission. "Admiral Kethvar, this is Admiral Sarah Chen. Permission to come aboard your vessel for a face-to-face meeting? I promise we come in peace, well, obviously, since you're the ones who declared war on us." She laughed at this, as if the declaration of war was some kind of joke. "Admiral," Commander Zilneth said quietly, "recommend we maintain distance until we understand their capabilities better." But curiosity was winning out over caution in Kethvar's mind. "Admiral Chen, you may come aboard. But I warn you, we are prepared for any treachery." "Treachery?" Chen's voice sounded genuinely surprised. "Why would we want to fight you? We've been looking forward to this meeting for 3,000 years. 20 minutes later, Admiral Kethvar stood in the docking bay, watching as a small human shuttle landed with technology that was clearly far beyond what their intelligence had suggested. The shuttle's design was elegant and efficient, using propulsion systems that the Council's best engineers would struggle to understand. Admiral Chen emerged from the shuttle, and Kethvar was surprised to see that she looked exactly like the primitive humans from their surveillance files, except for the clearly advanced technology she wore. Her uniform was made from materials that seemed to shift and adapt to the environment, and she carried devices whose functions were not immediately obvious. "Admiral Kethvar," she said, approaching with a wide smile and her arms spread in what appeared to be a friendly gesture. "It's such an honor to finally meet you. Your reputation as a skilled commander is legendary throughout the galaxy." "You know of my reputation?" Kethvar asked, his antennae twitching with surprise. "Of course. We've been monitoring galactic communications for centuries. We know all about the Council and its member species. That's part of why we're so excited about today. We finally get to join the galactic community officially. Several other humans emerged from the shuttle, each carrying containers and devices. One of them approached General Morthak with something that looked like a small gift box. "General Morthak, right?" the human said. "I'm Dr. James Park, Earth Xenobiology Specialist. I brought you something I thought you might enjoy. It's called chocolate. It's one of our favorite foods." General Morthak, a being whose species had conquered 17 worlds, found himself holding a small box of human sweets and not quite knowing what to do with it. "Admiral Chen," Kethavar said, trying to regain control of the situation. "Our intelligence suggests that your species has barely left your home planet. Yet these ships, this technology—" Chen looked genuinely confused. "Barely left our planet? Oh, you must be working from old data. We've had colonies throughout the solar system for over 1,000 years now. Mars has been terraformed for centuries, and we have mining operations on the asteroid belt that have been running for generations." She gestured toward the viewing port, where Earth was visible as a blue dot in the distance. "Earth is still our capital, of course, but it's just one world in our system now. We have about 12 billion people living throughout Sol at this point." The command center's crew exchanged glances of growing alarm. 12 billion humans spread throughout their solar system meant this was not the simple conquest they had planned for. "But our sensors," Scholar Quindal protested. "We've been monitoring your system for centuries. We would have detected such extensive colonization." Admiral Chen smiled apologetically. "Oh, that? Sorry about the sensor interference. We've been using stealth technology to avoid detection while we prepared for your arrival. We didn't want to spoil the surprise." "Stealth technology?" General Morthak growled. "What level of advancement are we talking about?" "Well," Chen said, seeming to consider the question seriously, "we've mastered clean fusion, quantum computing, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and we figured out faster than light travel about 800 years ago. Oh, and we've developed some really impressive terraforming techniques. You should see what we've done with Venus." The silence that followed this casual revelation was deafening. "Faster than light travel?" Kethavar managed to ask. "Without exotic matter?" "Oh, we found a much more elegant solution," Chen said cheerfully. "It involves manipulating quantum fields in a way that creates temporary bubbles of altered space-time. Much more efficient than exotic matter, and the fuel requirements are minimal." She looked around at the stunned faces surrounding her and seemed to realize that she might have said something significant. You don't have that technology yet?" she asked hesitantly. "The Galactic Council has been working on exotic matter alternatives for 10,000 years, Scholar Quindal said weakly. "Oh," Chen said, looking genuinely embarrassed. "Well, we'd be happy to share. That's part of why we're so excited about today. We finally get to trade technologies and learn from each other." Admiral Kethavar felt something he had not experienced since he was a young officer. He was completely out of his depth. The humans were not the primitive species the Council had come to conquer. They were an advanced civilization that had been hiding their capabilities for centuries, waiting for this moment. And instead of being angry about the Council's threats, they seemed genuinely excited to share everything they had learned. "Admiral Chen," Kethavar said slowly, "I think we need to have a much longer conversation than I originally planned." "Absolutely," Chen replied enthusiastically. "But first, would you like that tour of the solar system? I think you're going to be amazed by what humanity has accomplished. And wait until you see Jupiter. We've built the most incredible research stations in its upper atmosphere." As Admiral Chen continued talking excitedly about human achievements, Admiral Kethavar realized that the Galactic Council's invasion fleet had not come to conquer Earth. They had come to meet their new teachers. Admiral Kethavar found himself in the most unusual situation of his long military career, taking a guided tour of a solar system he had come to conquer, led by the very people he was supposed to be defeating. Admiral Chen had insisted on showing the Council fleet around their solar system, and what they saw challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about technological development. The tour began at Mars, which was no longer the dead, red planet from their intelligence files. "We started the terraforming process about 1,500 years ago," Chen explained, as their ships approached the now green world. "It took a few centuries to get the atmosphere just right, but we're pretty happy with the results." Through the viewing screens, The alien commanders could see a world covered in green vegetation, blue oceans, and sprawling cities that seemed to grow organically from the landscape itself. Ships moved between orbital stations and the planet's surface in patterns that suggested massive industrial and commercial activity. "How many people live here?" General Morthak asked, his voice strained with disbelief. "About 2 billion at last count," Chen replied casually. "Mars specializes in advanced manufacturing and research. We do a lot of our experimental technology development here since there's more room to work with dangerous prototypes." Scholar Quindal was frantically taking notes. "The energy requirements for terraforming an entire planet. How did you accomplish this without depleting your homeworld's resources?" "Oh, we figured out fusion pretty early in the process," Chen said. "Clean, unlimited energy made everything much easier. Plus, we've been mining the asteroid belt for over 1,000 years. There's more raw material out there than we could use in 1,000,000 years." The tour continued to Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, which had been completely transformed into an ocean world with floating cities. Then to Titan, Saturn's largest moon, where the humans had built massive research complexes studying the outer solar system. But it was the Jupiter system that truly amazed the alien visitors. The humans had built enormous research stations floating in the gas giant's upper atmosphere, harvesting helium-3 and conducting experiments in atmospheric physics that the Council's best scientists had only theorized about. "How long have you had this technology?" Commander Zilnith asked, her metallic voice betraying her awe. "Well, the fusion breakthrough came about 2,500 years ago," Chen said thoughtfully. "Faster than light travel was 800 years ago. The real game changer was when we figured out quantum computing and AI assistance. That was about 1,200 years ago. Once we had artificial intelligence helping us solve problems, our development speed increased exponentially." Admiral Kethvar's mind was reeling. The humans had not just caught up to galactic civilization, they had surpassed it in several key areas. And they had done it all while making the Council believe they were still primitive. "Admiral Chen," he said carefully, "why did you hide all of this from us? Why let us believe you were still confined to Earth?" Chen's expression grew more serious. "Well, to be honest, we weren't sure what your intentions were. The original message from the Council 3,000 years ago was pretty clear. You were giving us time to develop before you came back. It sounded like you might be planning to conquer us if we didn't measure up to your standards." She gestured toward the massive Jupiter research stations. "So we decided to use that time wisely. We developed our technology, explored our solar system, and prepared for your return. But we also studied you." "Studied us?" General Morthak demanded. "Of course," Chen said, seeming surprised by the question. "We've been monitoring galactic communications for over 1,000 years. We know about all the Council member species, your technologies, your cultures, your history. We've learned your languages, studied your art, and followed your scientific developments." The implications hit Admiral Kethvar like a physical blow. "You've been spying on the entire galactic community for a millennium?" "Spying is such an ugly word," Chen said with a slight smile. "We prefer to think of it as getting to know our future neighbors. We wanted to understand galactic civilization before we joined it." Scholar Quindal spoke up, his tree-like form rustling with excitement despite the shocking revelations. "What did you learn about us?" Chen's expression brightened considerably. "Oh, so much. Your species has such fascinating approaches to quantum mechanics. And the Velthera's work in biological engineering is incredible. The Grenoid's geological research has answered questions we've been working on for centuries." She paused, then continued more thoughtfully. "But we also noticed something troubling. The Council seems to operate on the assumption that technological superiority gives you the right to control less advanced species. We saw records of dozens of worlds being absorbed into the galactic community, whether they wanted to be or not." The command center fell silent. The humans had not just been preparing technologically for this meeting, they had been preparing diplomatically and philosophically. "So we made a decision," Chen continued. "We would develop not just the technology to defend ourselves if necessary, but the capability to offer something better than conquest to the galaxy." "What do you mean?" Kethvar asked. Instead of answering immediately, Chen activated a small device she had been carrying. The command center's viewing screen filled with images that made every alien present gasp in amazement. The images showed human cities unlike anything in their previous intelligence. These were not just advanced human settlements, but integrated communities where humans lived and worked alongside beings that looked suspiciously like various council species. Are those, Commander Zilneth began. Refugees, Chen said simply. Over the past 1,000 years, we've quietly offered sanctuary to members of species that the Council was preparing to absorb. We've learned so much from them, and in return, we've given them new homes and the chance to preserve their cultures. The screen showed Valthara working alongside humans in research laboratories, Grenoid children playing in Earth parks, and Zephyrite serving as communications specialists in human cities. They taught us so much about galactic civilization, Chen continued, and in return we shared our technology and our philosophy. You see, Admiral, we believe that the universe is big enough for everyone to thrive. Conquest shouldn't be necessary when cooperation is so much more productive. Admiral Kethvar stared at the images, his understanding of the situation changing completely. The humans had not just prepared to defend themselves. They had been quietly building an alternative to the Council's empire-based approach to galactic civilization. How many? He asked quietly. How many what? How many refugees have you taken in? How many Council species are living in human space? Chen smiled proudly. Representatives of 43 different species at last count. About 50 million individuals total, spread throughout the Sol system and our colonies. Colonies? General Morthak asked. You have colonies outside this system? Oh yes, Chen said cheerfully. We have settlements in 17 nearby star systems. Nothing too ambitious. We didn't want to encroach on Council territory. But we needed room for everyone. And there are so many beautiful worlds out there just waiting for someone to appreciate them. The viewing screen showed images of human colonies on worlds that looked like paradise. Green worlds with multiple moons. Ocean worlds with floating cities, even colony ships traveling between the stars. Admiral, Scholar Quindal said weakly, they haven't just caught up to us. They've built their own interstellar civilization. Admiral Chen nodded. We prefer to think of it as the prototype for what galactic civilization could become. A community based on cooperation, sharing, and mutual benefit rather than conquest and control. She looked around at the stunned alien faces. That's why we're so excited about your arrival, Admiral Kethavar. We've been waiting for the chance to show the Council that there's a better way to organize galactic society. We're hoping you'll like what we've built enough to consider some changes to how the Council operates. Admiral Kethvar realized that in the span of a few hours, everything he thought he knew about this mission had been turned upside down. The humans hadn't been hiding in fear for 3,000 years. They had been preparing to change the entire galaxy, and instead of conquering them, it looked like the Council was about to be conquered by aggressive kindness, superior technology, and a fundamentally different vision of what galactic civilization could be. Admiral Chen, he said slowly, I think we need to have a very long conversation about the future of the galaxy. I was hoping you'd say that, she replied with a smile that somehow managed to be both innocent and revolutionary at the same time. 3 weeks later, Admiral Kethvar faced the most unusual problem of his military career: how to explain to the Galactic Council that their invasion fleet had been conquered by cookies, kindness, and superior technology. The Eternal Dominion's command center had been transformed into something that looked more like a cultural exchange center than a military vessel. Human engineers worked alongside Council technicians, cheerfully upgrading alien systems with technology that was centuries ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. Valthara refugees from Earth served as translators, helping both sides understand each other better. Admiral Kethvar sat in his command chair, watching Dr. James Park explain human fusion technology to a group of fascinated Council engineers. Nearby, General Morthak was having what appeared to be an intense but friendly discussion with a human military strategist about defensive tactics that didn't involve conquering other species. Admiral, his communications officer called out. The Council is requesting a status update on the Earth operation. Kethvar sighed, a sound that his species made when facing impossible situations. Put them through. The main screen filled with the images of the Council leadership, gathered in their chamber millions of miles away. Thysiara's forearms were crossed in an expression of impatience. Admiral, she said, it has been 3 weeks since your fleet reached Earth. What is the status of the human surrender? Admiral Kethvar looked around his transformed command center, where humans and aliens worked together with an enthusiasm that would have seemed impossible a month ago. Council members, the situation has evolved beyond our original parameters. Evolved how? Demanded Council Leader Morgoth, whose species had been conquering other worlds for 50,000 years. The humans have not surrendered exactly, Kethvar began carefully. Then why haven't you commenced bombardment? General Morthak's replacement on the council asked. Our intelligence suggested their defenses were minimal. Our intelligence was incorrect, Kethvar said. Significantly incorrect. He activated the ship's recording systems, showing the council members images of human colonies, advanced technology, and most shocking of all, the integrated communities, where council refugees lived alongside humans. The silence from the council chamber was deafening as the full scope of the situation became clear. How long have they possessed this technology? Scholar Quindal asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Centuries in some cases, Kethvar replied. Council members, the humans have been using the 3,000-year truce period to develop technology that surpasses our own in several key areas. But more importantly, they have been building an alternative model of galactic civilization. On cue, Admiral Chen appeared on the screen beside Kethvar. Over the past 3 weeks, she had become a permanent fixture on the alien flagship, working tirelessly to establish formal diplomatic relations. Honored council members, she said with a respectful bow, on behalf of humanity and our allied species, I want to thank you for this opportunity to finally establish formal relations with galactic civilization. Allied species? Thisara asked, her voice dangerous. Representatives of 43 council member species who have chosen to make new homes in human space over the past millennium. Chen replied cheerfully. They've taught us so much about galactic culture and technology. In return, we've shared our developments and our philosophy of cooperative coexistence. The screen split to show images of the integrated communities throughout human space. Council members could see their own species, beings who had supposedly been successfully absorbed into the galactic empire, living freely and prosperously in human cities. This is impossible, Council Leader Morgoth declared. Our absorption protocols are perfect. Species don't leave the Council once they join. With respect, Admiral Chen said, your protocols assume that joining the Council is always voluntary and beneficial. When it's not, some individuals prefer to seek alternatives. She gestured to the transformed command center around her. But now we have the opportunity to work together openly. Humanity formally requests membership in the Galactic Council, with the understanding that we bring our own colonies and allied species with us. The Council chamber erupted in debate as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't just asking to join galactic civilization, they were asking to reshape it. Admiral Kethvar, Council Leader Morgoth said finally, what is your professional assessment of the human military capabilities? Kethvar had been dreading this question. Superior to our own in most respects, he admitted. Their faster-than-light technology is more advanced, their energy production is more efficient, and their defensive capabilities. He paused, remembering the demonstrations he had witnessed. Council members, they could have destroyed our entire fleet within minutes of our arrival if they had chosen to do so. Then why didn't they? Thisara demanded. Admiral Chen smiled. Because we don't want to fight you. We want to work with you. The galaxy is enormous, with billions of worlds and countless species. There's no need for conquest when there's so much room for everyone to thrive. She activated her own display, showing star maps of human exploration beyond the Council's borders. We've found 17 uninhabited systems that could support Council species. We've discovered new energy sources, new materials, and new approaches to technology. We want to share all of this with you. In exchange for what? Commander Zilneth asked suspiciously. Nothing, Chen said simply. We share because sharing makes everyone stronger. When we taught the Grenoid refugees how to improve their geological techniques, they helped us discover new mining methods that benefit everyone. When the Valthara taught us about biological engineering, we developed new medical treatments that have saved millions of lives across dozens of species. She gestured to the busy command center around her. Look at what we've accomplished in just 3 weeks of working together. Your engineers and ours have already improved both our technologies beyond what either could achieve alone. Admiral Kethvar had to agree. The Human Council technological collaboration had produced innovations that neither side could have imagined on their own. His ship's engines were now 40% more efficient, and human vessels were being equipped with Council defensive systems that made them even more formidable. "Council members," he said, "I recommend that we accept humanity's proposal for full diplomatic relations. They offer us not just advanced technology, but a new model for galactic civilization that could benefit all member species." The debate that followed lasted for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Council faced a choice: try to fight a war against a species that was technologically superior and had no interest in fighting, or embrace a new approach to galactic civilization. 6 months later, Admiral Kethvar stood on the observation deck of the New Harmony, the first joint Human Council exploration vessel. The ship was a marvel of combined technologies, capable of traveling farther and faster than anything either civilization had built alone. Beside him, Admiral Chen watched as they approached a new star system that their joint sensors had identified as potentially habitable. The crew included members of 17 different species, all working together to explore the unknown regions beyond both human and Council space. "Admiral," Chen said, "I've been thinking about that first message your Council sent to Earth 3,000 years ago. What about it? You gave us 3,000 years to develop and join galactic civilization," she said with a smile. "I think we've done both, just not in the way anyone expected." Kethavar's antennae twitched with what his species equivalent of laughter. "Indeed, though I suspect the galaxy will never be quite the same." On the main screen, their long-range sensors detected signs of yet another potentially habitable world, one of thousands they would explore together in the years to come. Behind them, the first human ambassador was presenting Earth's formal application to join the Galactic Council to an enthusiastic assembly that had voted to restructure itself based on human principles of cooperation and mutual benefit. The 3,000-year truce was officially over, but it had ended not with war, but with the beginning of a new era for galactic civilization, an era in which conquest was replaced by cooperation, and in which the laughter of humans had transformed the entire galaxy's understanding of what it meant to reach for the stars. Admiral Kethvar's final report to the Council was simple. Mission status complete. Humanity successfully integrated into galactic civilization. Note, they brought cookies. Recommend immediate adoption of human diplomatic protocols for all future first contact situations. The universe had indeed gotten more interesting, and everyone was invited to the party.